Yeah. All right. Good morning, everybody. Trying to get here. Welcome back, Alan. So welcome back. Okay.
I'm good. I'm from there, but the meeting there, we have a meeting.
Oh, we're over here.
Where?
88.
Ah, yeah. Okay, sure. All right.
No wonder you tried. I was on mute.
I went through it, didn't really have a chance to chazer. You did a chazer twice, so didn't have a chance to chazer once. But
More Chabura style.
let's see how it goes. Yeah, Chabura style. All right. So 5 lines on the top.
Yeah.
All right. So now the Mishnah was discussing various cases. Peichas and Peitas is today. So various layouts of the daf, multiple gittin, written and Eidim sign. So the Gemara says Eini. So can you have go ahead and sign it on the side? But Rav Chasim that side. So you said you can't go ahead and sign it because if you sign on the side, then it doesn't look that the Eidim were testifying to that which is written next to it, right? Because it's written sideways. So but Rav used to go ahead and do it. So our answer is no. Hasim the shgagol klapi ksav, right? When the roof, right, was towards the ksav, right? In other words, when you sign under something, right, the top of your writing is underneath that which is written. The roof of it, the signature is underneath. So here, instead of the roof underneath it, the roof is here. So the roof, whatever you sign underneath still testifies to that which is above it. But it says over there later on, so the Gemara says, I understand. So if the rule is that if whatever the roof of the signature is underneath, right? So that part is kosher. So why does it say if there's writing in the middle between two different gittin that both are apostle? Just see, right? Say right? Least kosher. See which one it's underneath, right? The roof of it is underneath it, and therefore that part will be kosher. So Gemara says, no, Hasan over there. It was sideways, like a boat, right? There's those of you who have the picture in the art scroll, right? The bottom right picture, right? It was written not underneath it, rather it was written sideways, almost perpendicular to the text. So that's the case. So it says, okay, for over there, if you have it. That there's signatures in between two texts, so that which if you continue reading, the witnesses' signatures are written the same way, right? So therefore, that's kosher. Right? We're talking about that where it was written as as sideways, right? It's not read with either one because once again, it's going to point, it's perpendicular. Ella Rav Bediski Harichasim. Rather, he wouldn't sign on the side of gittin that were on the side of gittin. Rather, he would sign those things on that they were like shars b'din. Those were cases where people were summoned, and he signed to it. It wasn't necessarily a text of a shtar. And get shikasu be'ivris v'chulei kasu sefer ve'ed kasher. So we had in the Mishnah, we had different scenarios or different cases of the handwriting or the language or how they wrote their names, whether they wrote their full names, whether they wrote Aid or so. Amar Rabbi Yirmiyah, Chasam Sefer Shaninu. So he says over there that if you have a case of Chasam Sefer Aid, right? If you have the Ksav of the Sefer and then Aid is kosher. So here we're talking about where, in other words, he wrote it. That it was his signature. It wasn't just the Sofer wrote it, and because he wrote it, he's acting as an aid. Rather, he also went ahead and had a signature and also an aid. And Amar Rav Chisa and Hamani, this is the opinion of Rav Yossi, is that the only way for who says that a shaliach can't go ahead and point to somebody else to go ahead and write it. So therefore, if he was whoever was writing it, was told to write it by the husband, therefore he can go ahead and be an aid, and therefore that's why it's kosher. And how ksuba chasan in das the coming Rabbi. So there was a ksuba that came before Rabbi Avo, to have a yadi the taisva, right? He know whose writing it was. And there was also two signatures, and one of which he recognized. So in other words, he recognized who the sofer was, and he recognized one of the witnesses. So Sabbath, sure, he wanted to go ahead and be machshir, so she gets. Right? So he says, no, it has to be only when he writes aid, when he's one of the one of the witnesses. But just because you know that who the sofer is, it doesn't necessarily mean he's an aid, and therefore it would not be kasha in such a case. And kasav chanicho the chanichasa kasher. So if he wrote right his name and his family name, then it's kasher. So Tan Rabbanan Chanichos Avos Begitin Ad Asar Daros. Right. So the names they used to have the names. I had a classmate Ben Ezra, right? Or so the names Ben David, right? So those were names. So they attribute to one of their their great ancestors. So that which we say they can use the name, it's only up until 10 generations. And Rabbi Shimon ben Azar, no Gimel Daros Kasher up to 3 Mikan Beilach possible, but after that. It's puzzle that is not identification of the individual. So Kaman Azahad Amar Rabbi Chanina, Kasav Chanichas Abba is beget and Ad Gimodaros. Who's it means that? So Kaman Rabbi Shimon ben Azar. That's the last opinion we saw of Rabbi Shimon ben Azar. And Amar Rafuna, Mike Rovas Pasuk, Kisailid Banim Uvnei Banim V'Nashantam. So it says over there when you have sons and sons of sons. So we see that who goes out, who could potentially be identified by the grandfather. That is the Bnei Banim, only the grandsons, but not a fourth generation. And Abraham Yishub and Levi loichar b'Eretz Yisrael ad she'avru ad she'avdu, excuse me, right? Ad she'avdu ba shiva batidin avodah. Right. So it says they didn't go ahead and basically Eretz Yisrael is not destroyed until 7. Different, families of Batidinim, right? This did avodah zarah. Elohein. So that was Yeravam ben Nabat. So the first one was Yeravam, Ubasha ben Achia, V'Achav ben Amri, V'Yehu ben Nimshi, Pekach ben Ralmiyahu, Menachem ben Gadi, V'Yishia ben Olam. So ben Elah, right? So he says all of these 7. Right, they violated. Right, they went ahead. They avodah zarah. Right, and therefore that was destroyed. Shenamar, as the pasuk says, Lala Yailedes Hashiva Nafsha Ba Shimsha Ba'od Yemam Baisha Ve'Chafer. So it says over there that when there were 7 went empty, and therefore it was Nafsha was returned to Eretz Yisrael, right? So then came the son in the middle of the day, and she was embarrassed. So it says over there that Yerushalayim was embarrassed only after the 7, right? This is Yoledas Hashiva. And Amar Avami Ma'ikra Kisali Bani Bnei Bani. So it says that over there is only when the children and grandchildren come. So we see over there that they will be sent away because of the avodah zarah that was performed, by the, that was next pasuk, by the ancestors. And Amrle Rav Kahana Rav Asi the Rav Ksibe Boshe ben Ela, right? Ben Ela. But the Asara ben Hashem Rakloi b'Malchei Yisrael. Ksiv. Allah Shamlasar. So it says over there, so that over there that they did evil, by that in the eyes of Hashem. But but when the king of only later on did the king of Assyria come up. So why did Shalmaneser? Why was it destroyed later on? Not by not by the real bad ones. Shamalu Aisan Padisay Shahayshib Yiravam Al Hajrafim. Today Shalo Yalu Yisrael Rego. So there were originally they were set up like different convoys in areas to basically stop Bnei Yisrael being Oil Rego. And Bosheh, and it was Mavatlan. He took them apart and he allowed them to come. Nevertheless, Yisrael wasn't oil regel, so it wasn't that they were being prevented anymore. So when they were being prevented, even though that the king was very wicked, so they still it was destroyed. So then Hoshea came and destroyed those, and they were able to come. The Jews still didn't come, and on that, Amar Kadosh Baruch Hu Eisan Shanim Shalalu Yisrael Regel Yelchul V'Shem. Because of that, then because once they had the opportunity, now Bnei Yisrael was being held accountable, and therefore that was the reason why they were sent into captivity. And Amar Rav Chizda, Amar Rav Marukfa, Rabbi Yonatan, Amar Rav Chizda, Amar Rav Yirmiyah. So Darish Mereimar, Maidechsi was the pasuk mean Vayishkod Hashem al Ra, right? And he brought it quickly, right? The destruction, right? The Ra. They then Aleinu Ki Tzadik Hashem Elokeinu. So where it says Mishum Tzadik Hashem Elokeinu because it's Tzadik Vayishkod Hashem al Ra Vayvenu Aleinu. He brought it this destruction upon us. So El Tzedakah Sagadosh Baruch Hu Yisrael. Shehigla Golos Tzidkiyo. So then we sent them out during the days of Tzidkiyo, and the Galus of Yechoniah was still out. The Chsivei, because Yechoniah, right, Hacharish Bahamaskir Aleph. So it says over there that, and they were, and the craftsmen and the workers were still there, and the gatekeepers. What does that mean? Charash Shabasha Shapaischin Nasa Kol B'Charishin. Right, when they were talking Torah, everyone else would be silent. Right, they were like be able to speak. So in other words, they set up the Galus that they had ready. Tamid Chachamim out there. They didn't speak Torah. They were quiet. And Masker Kevan Shesegin Shuvein Paiskim. Once they go ahead and they close up to give their final arguments, there is no opening or questions into that. And the Kama and Hamada were there. Elef, there were 1,000. And Ula Omar, and Ula has another opinion. He says Shehiktim Shtei Shanim LeNeshamtem. Right, he made it 2 years earlier for in order to bring it out. Because if you do that, I guess the Gematria, right? Rashi brings it down, right? The Gematria is 800. B'Neshamtem is 852, and it was 2 years earlier. So in other words, he brought it earlier in order that they should go ahead and be, in order they wouldn't be completely destroyed. Because after 852, they would have been completely destroyed. But he hastened it. In other words, was 2 years early, so they weren't completely destroyed because they were 2 years of more evil. Then Eretz Yisrael, Bnei Yisrael would have been completely destroyed.
Yeah, this happened because they get the names of again for 7 generations.
I think they about the pasuk of the Shantam, yeah, and then
They
yeah, right. I always say the Gemara gets very ADD, right? He goes on to one topic and then it just
Yeah, ready questions to get on topic and then we'll go on. Seeing that obvious.
yeah. That was always the goal in school.
Exactly.
Yeah, right. Just change it. So Amar Rav Acha Bar Yaakov says Rav Yaakov Shma Mino Meheira. Right. So it says Meheira Damari Alma Timni Meya B'Chamishin Tartiu. So he says, well, who destroy quickly? Quickly means 800 and 52 years. Right. So that means quickly.
Less than 800.
Well, less than quickly means right. Look at that.
2 years
There. From I think when these right. Zok the Mishnah Naya Mishnah yeah, that'd be great.
when they enter the land.
Enter, yeah. Zok the Mishnah get Meusa Yisrael Kasher. So a get which is forced by the courts. Now normally that the husband has to willingly give a get, the wife has to accept it. However, there are certain circumstances where he's forced to give a get, and he says, "I'm not doing it," and they can basically sort of bend his arm, literally, metaphorically, to go ahead and force him to go ahead and give a get. And if it's done by the Jewish courts, then it's kosher. However, then it's possible. It's not good. However, that which right, then it is. Take it out. The base not takes out. Okay. However, they allow the the Goyish courts can go ahead and fulfill, right, go do that which was ordered by the Jewish court. So the other Chavim are acting the shlichus, right, for on behalf of the Jewish courts, then it would be permitted. In other words, that's not considered. That is considered to be the husband gave the get, a get musa, and therefore it is a valid divorce. And Amar Nachman Shmuel, get hamusa b'Yisrael kedin kosher, a get which is forced by Yisrael, right, by the Jewish Beis Din, so properly kosher. Shalai kedin. However, if they were not authorized to do so, it's not every situation where they're able to do it. For that, those cases, please contact your local Orthodox rabbi. But Shalai kedin, then it is considered to be possible, right? Then upaisel, right? And therefore, nevertheless, it does go ahead and passes the woman. In other words, if it was given, if it was forced, even though, so we say it's not a good get, but now she's considered to be a woman, right? There's like a reach get there, right? It's like a woman who received the document. Therefore, people go ahead and let's say the husband dies and she's an almana, and the almana's allowed to go ahead and marry a regular Kohen. So then she marries a Kohen. People might say, oh, I thought she got divorced. So even though technically she wasn't divorced, but since it appeared like a divorce, therefore it apostles her from marrying a Kohen in the future. If Avei Kechavin knows it was a case where he was supposed to go ahead and really be forced to divorce her, and nevertheless she went to the Goyish courts and they did it. So Kedin Pasel, right? It doesn't work. Upaisel and passes her from Puno Shalai Kedin, but if it wasn't even an authorized situation, Afilu Recha Get Ein Bo. It's not considered a get, and therefore not only is she not divorced, but even if the guy dies, then she can go ahead and marry a Kohen. So as Gemara says, Malashach, I Avei Kechavim b'nei Isu Yaninhu discussion on kasher, right? If they're forced get is a forced get, so let it have the same halachas, right? If it's kedin, then it's kasher. If it's not, then it's puzzle, but it puzzles her, right? And if they're not, right? If they're forcing is not considered to be halachically approved, then maybe so then it shouldn't do anything. So from the Shashi at the Torah get musa b'chavim kasher. Really make her a get that was forced by the chavim is kasher. So matam amar pasul. What's the reason why they say it's pasul? Shaloi take halachas ve'achas halachas v'tol atzim v'tol chavim. V'mafki atzim miyad ba'ila. So every woman, it's very easy to go ahead and go to they hang out with their Goyish friends. They say, hey, why don't you go ahead and rough up my husband and just get me out of this, right? A kosher Beis Din, right? You would assume go ahead and only do in the proper situations, as opposed to other Kechavim, they not necessarily would. Gemara says, Ihachi, Shalei B'din, right? If that's the case, Afilu Recha Get, right, Ein Bo. So he says, okay, if that's the case, right, that you say there's no Recha Get if the guy does it. I said, so why don't you put it in the same status? If it's Kedin is okay, so why is it any different when a Jewish court does it, when they don't really have the authority to do so? In such a case, we say she's not divorced, but she can't marry a Kohen. So why is one forced by other Kechavim any different? So Ella had the Ramesharsha Badusi. Rather that's a mistake. Rather of time am I really Kedin Yisrael Mishnah. He said no, because if you go ahead and you say that apostles are, people might get confused and say, well, if the apostles are just like a Jewish horrible apostle, if they're not authorized, so maybe they might say that it would be okay if they did it Kedin. So Gemara says, and therefore in that case, in Shalai Kedin Yisrael Mishnah. But however, so in the case of when they did it Shalom Kedin, right, then they won't confuse that with the Gintar Yisrael, right? Yisrael does. So therefore, it's one step off, right? So that which was done by a Jewish court, right, is Mikra Din is okay. We don't want them to, but Ikmir Din is okay. It's technically okay, Mikra Din by other Chavim. But since we don't want that to be done, therefore we lower it down one level and say, it doesn't work, but she's passed from Kuna. But then the next level, right, of saying that it was done Shalom Kedin, that they're not going to get confused with the case of Kedin to say that she was divorced. We're not going to matter an Eishes Ish, she's not, matter based on that. So Abai found Rav Yosef that he was getting ready to go ahead and basically force a divorce. Understand, we're not here to sell. We're only a court which is hedyot, right? We don't have the smicha in Eretz Yisrael. And then we say at the time we're going to write so Haya Rabbi Tarfon Kol Malkom Shata Maitzi Garish Chavim Afi Shedinem Kedine Yisrael Yet Harish Liskakim Behem. Anytime you find where the where Avdik Chavim are acting right as judges, even if it's Kedin, right? Nevertheless, you can't go ahead and support it because the pasuk says Ve'lo Mishpatim Asher Tasim Lifneiha. Says these are the cases. So even though it would be the same court, the same ruling, whether you go to a Jewish court or non-Jewish court. So it says there, tasim lifneihem, lifneihem lo lifnei chavim. You only do it for Jewish judges, not the chavim. And dar achir, and another judge there, lifneihem lo lifnei hadyatos. Only those with smicha, not hadyatos. So we're hadyatos. So why are you able to go ahead and act as a beis din to go ahead and force his get? Samarlei onan shlichusayu ka'avdim. We're shlichim of the Batei Didim, the great Batei Didim in Israel, where they have smicha, and therefore, since we're acting on their behalf, therefore we're allowed to go ahead and do it, right? I mean, right? Like different cases of where people admit the cases, or there are loans that we're able to go ahead and do those cases. So too we can go ahead and do a get musa. Understand? What about cases of injuries and thefts? Why don't you be able to do those cases, which they weren't, right? So he says, no, that which we do ahead and shlichas b'milsa the shlichi, that's only things that are common. However, however, things that were not as common, those things we would not act as messengers, such as gezelos and chavelos. So therefore, that was not common. But apparently, get musa was more of a common practice. Fine. Naya Mishnah. Mishnah says, Yatsa. Shema be'ir mikudeshes. If there was a rumor, right now we're going to talk about different rumors. If there was a rumor in town that she was mikudeshes, then harezu mikudeshes. She is considered to be a married woman. She can't just go ahead and accept the kedushin from somebody else. Or if there's a rumor that she was migureshes, if she was divorced, harezu migureshes. She is considered to be right. She was known to be married to somebody. Was married to a Kohen. Right, and then there was a rumor that she is divorced, and he drops dead. Right, then she's not able to go ahead and marry somebody else because we're conscious that she's a grusha. Ubilvad shelo yehe shem amtal shamantal. Right, in order that there is no sort of a masla. Right, there's no sort of reason. Right, or why. Right, no, it's something that wouldn't, there's no, what's it called? Justification or reason for that rumor. We can go ahead and basically dispel, right? And say it's not true, right? There's no other factors. It's easy. What does that mean? What are some cases? So, so let's say some fact it was that, there was rumor that she was married on condition, or she was divorced on condition, but that condition was never done. So there was a rumor that she was divorced, but there's a hole to that story. Or Zarek la kedusha, or they threw her kedushin, and Savik Karlo, Zohi Yamasa. This is some sort of mitigating factor that would come into play that we say, you know what, maybe we don't have to go ahead and listen to this rumor. We can go ahead and say this is not true. So the Gemara says the Yasrin in law, right? And do we say that a woman is right? She's we go ahead and ask her. We don't go ahead and believe any call after. So if she's go ahead and she's married to a Kohen, so a Kohen can't marry a grusha. So you're going to go ahead and say this woman is now a grusha, that she has to go ahead and leave her husband. I thought any rumor that comes after the marriage, we don't go ahead and listen to that rumor. Yeah, case number 2, right, where it says Migureshes. So God says, Hachi Gamar. Now this means to say, Yatza Shema Be'ir, Mikudeshes, Haresu, Mikudeshes. Right? If there's a rumor, that she was just Mikudeshes, then we can't go ahead and necessarily go ahead and marry based upon that. However, if the rumor was, she was not even known to be married, but there was a rumor that Mikudeshes and Migureshes, there was a rumor about this woman who's new to town that she was married before and she was divorced. So in other words, it wasn't established, known to be married. It's not considered to be a kol le'achar nesuin, right? So or basar kedushin, right? So harei mikudeshes mikureshes. Hare zu megareshes. Then she's megareshes my time. I'll call because the rumor and that which broke up the rumor, i.e., that she's married, but she's she got divorced, so she's still single. Therefore, that came at the same time, and therefore those are believed together. So Amar Rava Yatzala Shem Mazana Be'ir. If she had a reputation that she was Mazana or to Avi Kachavim or to Eved or to someone who would passel her from the Kahuna, Ein Chayshin Lo. We're not Chayshin with such a rumor. My timer. Because the Alma of the Chazila, right? No one saw her have Maisabia, so perhaps maybe there was something else physical, but wasn't necessarily made her a zayna. Made her a zayna is she actually has bia. Who said she actually had bia, and therefore we're not chayshish to such rumors to go ahead and pass her lakun. So the Gemara says kitanai. This is machlokes tanai. So achla b'shuk. A woman is eating in the shuk, right? I thought this was sort of like a euphemism. I don't believe so. Literally, I guess it wasn't standard practice, a woman to be eating out in the open. So achla b'shuk, or gigur b'shuk, or she was walking, around, with haughty in the shuk in the marketplace, or hinika b'shuk, or she was nursing in the marketplace. B'chulan Rabbi Meir Aimer Teitze, she must go ahead and leave her husband, right? Because we assume that she was Mizana Tachla. Pretty strict. However, that's Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Kiva Meir, no. Right? No, only when basically the rumor is enough that those women who spin by the moonlight, they're crocheting out there, that they're the ones who go ahead and it's already reached that level of rumor. Samalo, Rabbi Yechav and Nuri, in Cain, they talk about everyone there. So everybody who's you hear about this one, you hear about this one. So everybody's going to have to go ahead and leave their husbands, right? Right? The Torah says, right? Kimatza ba ervas davar, right? When they have to go ahead and divorce your wife, we find ervas davar, right? Ulhalon aiber. When ervas davar is referring to mamash as a rayas. And then also it says, it says over there right afterwards, right? 2 or 3 witnesses, over there has to be something which is borer, clear, known. Afghan davar borer. So over here, in order to say has to be something borer. And if there was a rumor of a woman that she was a beula, right, and she was not known to be a beula before, she was a basula, she was free, so we're not chayshin to such a rumor, or in the suah in chayshin law, or if the rumor was that she was married, right? That was a rumor. We didn't know her to be married. So in chayshin law, she can go ahead and get kedushin from somebody else, right? Arusa in chayshin law, or there should be a merusa shalol ploni in chayshin law. In other words, that there was a rumor that she was Mekudeshes today, but they didn't say who it was, right? But rather she was in Niskasha Stam. 1 second. Shalol Ploni. In other words, so if there was a rumor about her that she was that Mekudeshes on that day, but it wasn't to somebody, they don't know who it was, so we're not chayshish. We're not chayshish to such a rumor, right? She was in Niskasha Stam, then ain't chayshin law. Or Be'ira Cheres, that they said she was engaged in another city, right? Today, but we don't know. In Chayshin, we're not chayshish to such a rumor. Mamzeres, or if she was a rumor that she was a mamzeres, in Chayshin law, a shivcha, only a rumor in Chayshin law, hikdish playing nechasev, or they say he was makdish all his nechasim, or hifker playing nechasev, or there's rumor that he made a hefker. In Chayshin law, we don't listen to these rumors. And Amar Ula, Shama Kol Havara, right? Not that over here, that is just stam, right? Havara is normally like an echo, but just means stam, a rumor, Ella Kadeshiyu, Neirais, Dolkais, Mitais, Matsuas. They went ahead. I guess this is how they set up their Kedushin, right? They had candles and tables and everything was set, right? They had the party planner was all set up. But the people go in and say, so-and-so was getting Mekudeshes today. So that's the rumor. We know that it was all set up. You know, they went to Ates Ayala, and it was all set up there, and she was getting married that day. So therefore, then that's what we're talking about. Maybe then we would we would listen to the rumor. So Gemara says Miskadeshes, but don't like Kasha. So she was supposed to be getting Mikudeshes. Who said that the Kedusha actually happened? So Ema Plainis Niskachayim, right? They said that she was Miskadeshes. Now it's basically they said that she was Miskadesh, not that she was going to, but she was Miskadeshes. Then we listen to such rumors. Similarly, not just that any stam rumor. Rather, the tables were set and the candles were out, the nashim kavos were on there, and then women, once again, the women were moving their needle points by the light of the candles, by smekosla, and they were, I guess, making her happy. They would say, she was getting married today. Mar said once again, maybe she wouldn't accept the kedushin. She was already miskacha. Then we listen to such rumors, and remember, these are all rumors because they're not testified by two Eidim, right? If it was two Eidim, then that's enough. It's just if you have two Eidim and say, yeah, we saw her Mikadeshes, that's not a level of rumor. Over here, level of rumor is just people were talking about that. There was not any sort of Eidus, but there was already rumors that people were there. People, saw that. Then that's considered a rumor that we do take into account. And Amar Rabbi Yechanan, it's not just a regular rumor. The candles are out, the tables were set, and the people go in and out, and they would say, so Amru Davar, and if they said she was married, Zev Kol, right? Amru Davar, but if they didn't say anything, Zev Amasla. That's considered some sort of outside factor, mitigating factor why the rumor wasn't true. So if they said something, then that's considered to be a rumor, and if they didn't say anything, that's considered to be there's some sort of mitigating factor. I said, Lo Amru like Lu. That wouldn't be good proof. You have to see. And you need proof, right? Even that day, say, God's getting married, today, you gotta say, hey, you gotta wait till. But if there's no men there, right, or men who testified on it, but there's just rumors, then but everything was set, right? Assuming we'll have tablecloths and candles. So okay. So the Gemara says, I understand. The last part says, "Lo amru davar zamas." They didn't say anything. That's a mitigating factor to a reason why the rumor shouldn't be believed. But if they didn't say anything, right? Lo amru, v'alo amru, like they didn't say anything. So if they didn't say anything, so it's no rumor, right? So no, it says Rafukim the Rabbi Rafuna to Shliach Rav the Amar Amasla Shamru. Who says that what you say some sort of factor Shamru Afil Mekan Vasar Yayim. It's even after, let's say, 10 days, right, or up until 10 days. So now, if we'll soon see later on, right, that if something, that there's something that comes up after that, so then normally that's considered to be an amasla. But however, if something, so kamashman lo yamru, therefore it comes to no lo amru hu dahavi amas. If they didn't say anything, that's considered to be, a mitigating factor. However, ha'amru, but if they did say something, right, that then lo yahavi amasla. Now, it's only if they said something with some sort of mitigating factor, if they did not say anything, right, then it's not considered to be an amasla in such a case. And Amr of the Abba, Amr of Hun, Amr Rab, lo yishamu kol havara ela kadei sheyemru pleni behechan shama. Rather, it's not just a rumor, right? It has to be more than that. Say, hey, where did you hear it from? So pleni behechan shama says, where did you hear it from? Me pleni, Budkin the haychin ad shemagid the davar abar, and they go ahead until they find the source, and then they basically go ahead and say, okay, now we can go ahead and believe. So they go ahead and find the source. Right? This is considered to be Edus. Now, if you get to the people who are actually there at the Chatzna, right? So it's no longer a rumor if you're able to go ahead and trace it all the way back. So Ella Kiyas Rav Shmuel Yehuda Amr Rabbi Abba Amr Rav Hun Amr Rav Lo Yishamu Kol Havara. It's not that just a rumor. Ella Kadesh Yom Reploni Behechan Shama. Where'd you hear from? Ploni and heard from him, and he from him. And then we finally found the last two people. Let's just have two people who were at the wedding. And those people went to Medina Siyam. So we can't go ahead and ask the witnesses. They're not around. but we know that those people were there, so therefore the story makes sense. But if we just stam heard, so there's just stam rumors, then that wouldn't be sufficient to be a rumor. But if we're able to go ahead and trace it, how which people saw it, but we just can't go ahead and ask them because the Siyam or they're not around, then that would be considered a rumor that has mamashas that we would believe. By the Rav Yosef, are we mevatel a kol or are we not? In other words, do they make an announcement if there's something that's not true or not? In other words, that something is not true unless we hear from kosher edim. So it must be there mevatel, because in other words, something is not true unless it's fact. Even comes from women who saw that's considered kol. Right? That anything that has sort of legs to walk on, we sort of take into account, even if there's no witnesses there, right? Even the women said. So he says over there, right? In other words, there's different ways to do it in different towns. In Sur, these right? So if they didn't have definitive, witnesses, then they would be mevatlet. If they had, people who are women or people who were in kasher leidus, they said to it, then they would not be. Those rumors would carry weight. And hahi denafik ala kayla is kasher lebar beirav. So there was a rumor about a woman that she was mikudeshes to a certain yeshiva student. And so he came for us. Tell me this mice with your daughter, and we'll see if she's mikudeshes. This rumor is sure enough. Right. So she was married al tanai, right? That he was not going to go to Beit Chuzai, and that was how the condition was. And he went. So since the time they heard the rumor. It wasn't a rumor that she was married al tanai. It was a rumor that she was married, and now only asking him later on, when he was explaining the case, that she was married al tanai. I was told she should be single and not, married to this guy who's not around anymore. You have no power to go ahead and create this masla, right? This excuse, and therefore we do hold the rumor in such a case because you don't have the kayach to say that she was mikudeshes al tanai. And there was also another case. There was a rumor: this kasha bat sifa the suchla be'enei be'shif, right? That she went ahead and she was mikadeshes with the parts, or I guess the pits, the stuff that attached to the pits from dates, from a date tree, right? So that was the rumor. She was mikadeshes with this. So Shalchor Rav Yidi Barav in the Kamei Debayik, he had got in mind. What was the case? Even according to the opinion, we're not mavatel l'kol, right? Over here we are mavatel l'kol, right? Because Meimar Amra, over here you can go ahead and dispel the rumor if there's not fact. Why? Because Meimar Amri, because they can say not that they allow a woman to go ahead and remarry, that even though she was ready to to somebody else, rather that since the rumor was, right, at the time when the whole rumor was that she was married with this dates, right, or whatever it was very cheap, right, the residue from the dates, right, so that's not a Sheva Pruta. So since the rumor started with she was married with something that was basically wasn't considered the value of a Pruta, is not considered the value of the Pruta, as we'll soon see on Tuesday, Mitzvah Hashem, right, then that woman is not Mikudeshes. Well, then she was never married, right? Then she was never married, and therefore, so she was never married to the first guy, so she can marry whoever she wants. Now, in this case, now there's another woman. There was a rumor about her, the Kadsha, the Chad Mibnei Plani, right? She was married to somebody from a certain town, but they didn't say who. One of the sons of Plani, right? Multiple sons. The one of his sons, they didn't say which one. So Amarava, even according to the right? The kedusha katan hab, right? The rumor was it's one of his sons. He had some sons who were katanim. So the reason why she's allowed to marry and allowed to go ahead and throw away this rumor is that there was a good reason, because everyone originally heard not that she was married. She was married to one of the sons. It was known that the guy had two sons who were katanim, and she must have been married to one of those, and that's why her kedusha was no good, and therefore there was no strength to that rumor. And I finally Denafik, like the Kachila Katan Hanira Kigadol. She was Mikadeshes to a Katan who, he was a Katan, but he appeared older. So they had this mice and he said, Adain Loigia the Flogos Ruve, right? Should not even reach the level of the Flogos Ruve. What is that? Right? The Flogos Ruve and Gedalim Chakire Leves. It said over there that where's this pasuk? Right in Shoftim. So it says over there that they did not go ahead and act their age. They did not go ahead and act older. In other words, there's a certain amount of seichel that one has when he's a gadol, and therefore, in this situation, the child acted like a child, even though he appeared like a gadol. Nevertheless, his actions, his brain was not as finished or developed, right, as that of a normal adult, and therefore the kedushin was not good. Fine, 2 dots, peites on the base towards the top. Well, actually, teisham amasif, right? No, that there is no other mitigating factor that would go ahead and basically disprove the rumor on the spot. And Amar Rabbi Rav Huna amasla shamru afilu mikan v'asariyah, right? So it says Rabbi Rav Huna that, in other words, even if it comes after 10 days, then it's considered to be, we listen to such factor. In other words, it doesn't have to be heard the day of, but if there's some sort of factors that we should take into account, then those can be up to even afilu asariyah. Right? When there is some reason to go ahead and to be samech upon, we are samech upon it. Right? In other words, over here, he's saying in a case of where you could make it a masla, right? That was what Rav Zvi was saying. But makom masla, right? Even in a case of, right? And look at Rashi says, "Afile in a masla elo makom pesach yesh ledavar shenuchal limod sham amasla chayshin shem amasla plainis yesh ledavar hakol bat." Right. So now, if there's a way to go ahead and put some sort of mitigating factor, then you do it. So I understand. So Rav Papa says, our mission says only if there is one, not if there's a hypothetical way to go ahead and create one. So right? What the mission means is not just that it was said with some sort of mitigating factor. Rather, there's a way to be done an amasla. Samarlei Rav Khan and the Rav Papa so you say like this. But in this kasha. So if a woman went ahead and so it was a case of when a woman was married to somebody and there was rumors that her husband died, right? Or we don't know what happened to him. And a person came and says, right, over there, we listened to one witness because we don't want to be a naguna. Over there, one person can do it. And based upon the testimony of one person, she went then and got remarried. All right. So she's allowed to, but you better be correct. All of a sudden, the guy walks in. Oops, right? Then all of a sudden, the husband comes back. Muterex laxor, right? She is able to go ahead and go back to the guy who was missing, husband A. Now, in this case, right?
That's the only case after kiddushin by the second husband.
Right.
You can go back to the first.
So in this case,
because it was by mistake, the whole kiddushin. It's the first one, the get of the first one, right?
Yeah.
In other words, there was a mistake.
Right. He was gone. Right. So he was right.
In the beginning, first.
He was gone in that. Right. So he went missing. Right. And then there was testimony that.
So it was false testimony. So the whole thing is butter.
Right. So in this case, so we say that she's muteres lachzor. So she's mutter to go back because so why is she muteres to go back? La mishum damrina al tanai kaddish, right? Maybe you could say like this: she only married, right, the guy al tanai, right? That if the guy was alive, the second guy, right? Al tanai that. So therefore, right? Who says normally if we don't go ahead, we should penalize her. We should not allow her to go ahead and go back to the first guy. Right, so why would I have to go back? So over here, we're depending on something that's really false. Right. So it goes to Shani Hasam the Asi Baal the Kamar. right? Normally it's different, right? Normally it's different because when the person comes back in this case, so he's mamashir, right? So since he comes back, so therefore when he comes back and he says, that he's in the situation, so therefore then there is no bigger spelling of the rumor than the husband coming back. See, hachi nishes nami. So why is it just she's mekudeshes, the same person, right? Over here she's mekudeshes to the person number 2. We say the kedushin was no good. So even if she was nises, she married the second guy, we should say the same thing. Gemara says no, nises the avda isura kansur rabban. Over there, the rabbanon penalized her, right? If she went ahead and fully married the second guy, and not just kedushin, then she get such a case she can't go back. So niskadsha the avda isura like kansur rabban. But if she was niskadsha, if it's just kedushin, then we do not go ahead and penalize her.
Do you think this was the case? People got married to the second husband.
But,
Or even now,
right, and I'm sure there are cases when the husband was found to be alive.
Yeah.
They say,
Many years later.
Yeah.
right. So Amar Ravashi, says Ravashi, Kol Kala delay Chassid B'Beidina Lav Kala. If it was not basically recognized in a court, then it's not considered to be a valid rumor. Ravashi, Kol Kala Dabas and the Suin, also like Chashinu, anything comes after the Suin, we're not Chayshesh too. The bus Erison Chayshin La. But if it's only after Erison, then we are Chayshesh. We're not chayshish to such a case. We're not chayshish even after Eris. And Amar Rav Yirmiyah Rav Shmuel. So they sent from Beirav to Shmuel. Medena Rabbeinu Yatzala Kol Merisha. If there was a rumor about a woman that she was mekadesh to one person. And then someone else comes in and he does a real kedushin. Mahu, what's Allah? She should go ahead teitze. Hadavar al baria. You should go ahead and make sure it's true, and then tell me. Go ahead what you find. The Gemara says, "What are you talking? What do you mean? What does it mean? Go ahead and find the truth in the case." The Megalia Milsa, the Kedushi Kamalav Kedushi Malyaninu, right? If you're telling me that you're trying to go ahead and investigate the matter, see if the first Kedushin was a good Kedushin, let's say it was, then we will go ahead and be right. And if it wasn't, right, then we'll Mavatal the call that she was never Mekudeshes originally. But in the hard the Shmuel, the place of Shmuel does not go ahead and dispel such rumors. So Eladi Milsa, right? Rather go ahead and go see if that the first was true, the Kedushi Kama, Kedushi Malyaninu, then let's you can get Mashani. Then what it means is you don't need to get from the second person, right? Because I was going to investigate it. If it was a real Kedushin, then the second Kedushin was nothing to the other individual. Pliga, the Rafuna, argues Rafuna, the Amr Rafuna, Eish Ish Shapashta Yada, the Kibla Kedushin Miacher. If a married woman accepts Kedushin from somebody else, then is Nikudeshes. Then we consider it like she's Nikudeshes even to the same person, and therefore she needs a get from him. It's not considered nothing. The Rav Hamnuna. The Rav Hamnuna Ha'isha Shamar Labayla Gershtani Chazak Anisha Amiza Panav Panei Palam. Right. So a woman says, "I'm divorced." We believe her because she would not have the audacity to do it. So if she's accepting kedushin from somebody else, it's like she's saying, "I'm divorced." So therefore, then there is something to the chashash of the kedushin of the second person. And therefore, a get would be required. The idach, the other prince says, "No, keys the Rav Hamnuna b'fanav shelo b'fanav miza. That's shelo b'fanav, right? But over here, shelo b'fanav, then she would do it. So over here, it was only a rumor that she was mikudash and she went to somebody else. So therefore, there was no doing it in front of the person's face. It wasn't a known Eish, right? That she was known to be a married woman. Took it. It was just a rumor that she was married. So therefore, perhaps if there was a rumor that she was mikudashes and her being mikabel another kedushin, then that's not considered to be meis pana. So lomot sudava bara. However, they did not find the matter. So what does it mean? How do they not find it? So mahu, so rapuna, megarish. If they don't find it, right? So what is it? So what do you do? So megarish rishon b'naisei shein. She goes ahead and he has to. The first guy divorce her. The rumor was from. The second one can go ahead and marry her. About megarish shein b'naisei rishon, but she can't go ahead and divorce the second one and go to the first one, my time. So the main machzer grushasa min erusin. People will go ahead and say that you're allowed to be machzer grushasa. The person normally, once you divorce her and with somebody else, you can't go ahead and go back to the other one. So let's say even machzer grushasa min erusin is permitted. And Avshina Bray Davida Amar Af Megavasheni B'Naisavishan. She can even go ahead and divorce the second one and go ahead and marry the first one. Why? Maybe people will say, I need Rabbanan Kedusha, but Kedusha Tos have. They'll say that no, that the second Kedushin was Kedusha Tos, the Kedusha Tos, and therefore would not be considered to be anything, and therefore the Rabbanan allowed her to stay with the first person, not case of Machzor Gushasa. So Yatzla Kol Mizeh. Let's say there's a rumor that about both Mahu. So Rapapa Avzu Megarish Risha B'Reis Hashem, right? In other words, if there was a rumor, right, that she was either one, so in this case, though, even in such a case, she's allowed to go ahead and be divorced the first one and marry the second one, but not the other way around. She can't be Megarish the second one and marry the first one. So no, in this case, Muter's L'Shem. She should be Muter to both of them, whichever one she wants to go ahead. The Hilchasa Muteris L'Shem. The halacha is that Muteris L'Shem. Everyone have a wonderful day. So tomorrow, Hashem, we'll finish the.